Welcome to the midweek message from First Grapevine, a United Methodist Church. We're glad you've joined us. Please take a moment and let us know you are watching by registering on our church website or mobile app. We hope this encouraging word will be a blessing for the middle of your week.
Welcome to this week's midweek message. I'm Grant. I'm a pastor here at First Grapevine. We have not one, but two different conversations for you today. The first is with Lorie Payne, who is, if you haven't met her, then you're really missing out. One of the most amazing parents, church members, volunteers, just human beings that you could ever meet. She's going to talk to us a little bit about how to keep your family together and how to keep your kids educated and sane during this crazy time, and to do all that while facing this challenge faithfully and to do it well. We're also going to hear from James Lawrence. He is our Director of Families with Youth and Teens, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about how we as a church are reaching out to our kids and ways that you can be a part of helping us all just get through this and stay together. We really appreciate you being here with us. As always, you've got questions or comments or something on your heart or your mind, reach out to us. Give us a call. We're answering the phones, and you can find our emails on our website. We would love to hear from you.
Well, hello and welcome to the midweek message, and today we're going to be kind of focusing a little bit on what it's like to work with young people during this pandemic, and I'm joined today by church member Lorie Payne, and I would like to give her a moment just to kind of introduce herself and her history here with First Grapevine.
Hi, I'm Lorie Payne, and my family and I have been members here for 23 years, maybe 24 years. I am married to Neil, and we have 5 children, ages 23, 21, 19, 16, and 14.
All right, so you've got a large scale and representing a lot of the youth, particularly in young adults, which is kind of what our focus is going to be today. And I've got a 14-year-old, that's my oldest, and so we're trying to navigate this whole thing at the end of what we were just talking about of the longest spring break in the history of spring breaks.
Right, yes.
So what kind of, if you have any advice or some tips or some things that you have done to kind of help not just those that are in middle school or high school, but also kind of the adult children that need attention as well?
Okay, well, probably like a lot of people, when quarantine started, we were all like, this is fantastic. We were doing our school and stuff, but we were in our pajamas all day, playing games at night and all of that. And it was a lot of fun. And we still are doing those things. But as it continued and we started seeing things not happening that we knew we were going to really miss and that other people were going to miss that we just felt bad for, there was some stress. There became a lot more stress and just some challenges with that kind of thing. So I encourage my children, adult children as well, to talk about it with me or somebody else. I have one child who will tell me every single thing ever. I have one who does not, but talks to other people. So I think that's really important to have somebody to talk to. And then also we do, because we have a big family, it's kind of like one day we'll do this and it'll just be these 2 kids. And then the next day it might be other kids. So it's different because it's not like we're solitary alone with the same, we are, but we can kind of mix it up a little bit. And I know that not everybody has that advantage. But that's kind of worked well for us. And if you could switch up your environment at all, maybe, I think that's been really helpful. Even if my husband bought an outdoor movie thing so the kids could watch movies outside, have friends over and do that kind of thing. It was a lot of that kind of stuff that we've tried to help everybody keep their spirits up a little bit.
Okay. Those are all great ideas. I know shifting up the environment, one thing we did early on before it got too hot was we shifted all of our meals outside. So instead of sitting around the same table.
Right.
So that helped out a lot. We got to see a lot of interesting things. And, we were just talking that all of your kids have gotten back into school in some form or fashion.
Yes.
And school looks different. My kids are in Fort Worth ISD, so we've still got one more week before we get back. But how is the transition back into, I guess most of it's online still?
Right now, everything is online still. My 2 college kids are going to be online the whole semester, which I think one of them is okay with that, but the other one, not so much. But, I mean, what's the choice? So it's kind of like there's been a lot of going for a drive to try to decompress and think things through, and so that they're not just stuck in the same space every day, trying to figure all that out. My younger kids are actually, my youngest, she's going in person, so we start next week with that. And then my other high school daughter chose to do remote, and she's doing fine with it. We tried to get everybody to set up a spot where they could work from, a designated area that was comfortable, but also where they could work and not be distracted and not have weird backgrounds and things like that for when they're doing their WebEx meetings and stuff like that. I'm a teacher as well, so that's been interesting. I actually have been working from home these last few weeks because my son, Cal, has special needs, and so they granted me an accommodation. So I've been working from home to help him, which has also been weird and challenging because it's hard to be trying to do your own thing, then help your student do this, and then help your own child do this and stuff. But it's working, and we will all survive it. It's a blip, really, in the grand scheme of things. That's what I keep thinking. We're going to get through it, and we're going to come out on the other side, whatever that looks like. We're going to get through it.
Right, and this too shall end, as they say.
Yes.
And I think I'm glad that you brought that up, that you're a teacher, because so many parents are kind of not necessarily in a bad way, but they're focused on their kids. And I think we as a community of faith is one that, if we're asking for prayers today, we ask for that you pray for not just the kids that are going back to school, but for the teachers, particularly those that have kids of their own. Because I know in Fort Worth ISD, for example, they're requiring all of the teachers to teach, probably they make exceptions for those that need them, but they're requiring them to teach from the classroom. And, we have several friends who both the husband and the wife were both teachers, and they've got elementary school children. And so it's challenging. This is all challenging. It's nothing that God can't handle. Right. But I very much appreciate that advice, not just from a parent, but also as a teacher. And as we go back to, I think it's important to know, and as a professional, there are different kids who learn different ways. So I've got my oldest needs to get back in person as soon as possible. My youngest, if this work from home thing lasts forever, he'll be fine. That's important to understand that different kids have different styles.
Yes, and I think that is very important. It's so interesting too because, all of my kids grew up under the same roof with the same parents, but they're all very different. They all learn differently. They all struggle with different things. It's, and it is, I think, really important because especially for the ones that don't have a choice, like your classes are online, period. You have to figure out the best way to support them and offer, at the same time, I try to say it's not the end of the world. We're at least going to school and it will pass. And maybe in the spring, everything will be a little bit better and we'll be able to get back. And if not, we'll get through it. And then we'll see, what happens next year. But also listen and understand. This was a big part of this for me, was just listening to them and myself about, some of these things are really hard and they're really sad, and it's okay to feel sad about missing out on things and be disappointed, but at the same time, you can't just live in that. You gotta go, okay, well, now we gotta move on to the next thing and try to get, because like I said, in the grand scheme of things, in our whole life, this is probably gonna be a little blip of.
I like the blip.
Yeah. Well, I listened to the radio one day. I don't ever listen to talk radio, and it just happened to be on, which was kind of a weird, I said this was a God thing for sure. But there was a woman on there, and she had a really soothing, calm voice, and she was talking about living through the polio pandemic, and I can't even remember what else, but several different things, world-changing things. And that's what she said. This too shall pass. We will get through it. We are strong people. We will get through it. And I remember thinking, this is going to be fine. We are all going to be okay. It's just different, I think, when they're kids, because a lot of times they don't have life experiences that adults do. They can't always see the big picture or this is what's coming ahead. They live kind of more in the moment, I guess that's just part of age and life and stuff as you get older.
You've got, particularly adolescents that are going through the normal changes that adolescents go through, and the stress and the emotions and the hormones and all of that.
Right.
And throw that in that their world's been turned upside down. So
yeah.
I think the takeaway from our conversation is you used one word, and that's listen. And I think that we as a society would do a lot better if we just did less talking and more listening.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And so, that's important to all of you that are watching, is that, whether you're a kid or you've got kids or you don't, if you need someone to hear you and to listen to you, you've got a church family here. If you've got friends, if you don't, call our office and talk to one of the pastors. If you're a young person, call James, text James or Sandy or Monica. And, the support system is here for us to get through this together, so that we can get back in person and look back at this blip and realize that hopefully it made it stronger.
Yeah.
So as we close our conversation, I just want to end on a fun note. So do you have any recommendations for games or board games or things that families can do to kind of lift their spirits during this time?
Sure. We so this summer, like I said, we played a lot of games. We played Mexican Train. That was a big favorite. It lasts forever too. So we did that. We played a lot of cards, Uno, Dos, lots of different card games. One thing that we did, which was really fun, we had a little staycation. So every day, each of our kids got to pick something fun to do. And so we went canoeing and kayaking one day. We rode the train one day. There are a lot of things. There's a lot of fun things to do in our area if you just explore and figure it out and kind of do some research. So,
Good ideas.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we've been doing a lot of games as well. So that's what I do. Don't spend too much time. Try to have some fun during all of this.
Yep.
I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And just let you know that, of course, we're praying for you and your family, and all of you out there. We're doing the same. And we thank you very much for joining us for this portion of the midweek message, and we'll see you soon.
All right, welcome back, and we are now joined by James Lawrence. He's our Director of Families with Youth, and so we're going to be talking a little bit, James, about what is going on. How are you doing your job in the midst of a pandemic? How does that even work?
It's a good question. We've had to be a little bit creative. We've got virtual programs every week, and then in addition to that, we're starting to kind of do some more of our in-person stuff.
Yeah.
This summer, we were mostly virtual. Kind of starting in for the whole thing.
Just to be very specific, you mean Zoom?
Yes.
No,
Yeah,
what
Zoom.
I like about the youth is that they don't just do Zoom, but they do Instagram.
We do Instagram. It's cooler than Zoom. So
yeah, it's the same thing, just it's
right.
cooler.
Yeah, so we do Instagram messages, like a short sermon, and then followed up with some Zoom calls. So
awesome. How's that going?
It's going well. I think all of us have a little bit of Zoom fatigue. And moving into the fall, we're doing some more in-person stuff, distant, safe. Outside, all that.
How's that going?
It's going well. We did one in-person small group in August. We had kids meet down at the pumpkin patch area, and then also up here by the chapel in the yard.
If you've never been here before, when he says pumpkin patch area, if you can see us on a map, he means down by Ball Street in Grapevine.
Yes, just two different fields.
Yeah.
So we had our high school meet down there, middle school meet up the hill. Everyone sat in their own lawn chairs, stayed distant, and it was just really nice to see everyone.
Awesome.
So
I bet.
Yeah, the kids really enjoyed that. And then we are doing some service projects this fall. Our first one was setting up our sanctuary. We did some renovation in there, getting ready for whenever we get to resume in-person worship.
All right. You mean for all of us, like church as a whole?
For the whole congregation, yeah. Whenever that happens, we will be prepped for it.
Nice.
So the youth kind of help move hymnals and Bibles and pens and envelopes.
Yeah, that's a ton of work.
It was a lot of books, yes.
Yeah, I actually went in there earlier today, and I just had forgotten that there were going to be people working on. Like, oh my goodness, like people are getting ready.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So, and then later on, September, October, we're doing drive-in movies. So
What movies?
That's a good question.
All right.
So if you have input on that, let me know.
Let us know.
Yeah. We've been kind of flipping through some, but we'll be doing them outdoors. It'll hopefully be not 104 outside when we do that.
Yeah.
It's my goal.
Supposed to, by the time they can watch this, supposed to be a little bit cooler already. So
Right. Yeah.
that's good. I like the drive-in movie idea. That's
Yeah.
cool.
I feel like Sandlot is always a good drive-in movie.
And it's great for youth groups. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're killing me, Smalls.
I actually get that reference.
Wow, that's a miracle. Real miracles happen here sometimes. All right, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So, do you have just a piece of advice for, let's say, someone is watching us, they have a kid in high school, junior high, and they don't come here yet, or maybe they live in another state. Do you have a free tip to throw out there to that maybe perhaps frustrated parent who's dealing with not just normal parenting, but parenting in 2020?
Yes. I'm going to tell a super short story to go with it.
Go for it.
Okay. When I was in 6th grade, I was just a little bit shorter than I am now. I hated everything. I didn't want to be a part of any groups, any organizations. I was in Boy Scouts and I hated it. I was in choir and I hated it. And later on, I liked those things. But in 6th grade, I did not want to be a part. So my dad said, for one school year, you have to do whatever I say. And so he made me show up in person to youth and youth choir. And I was very, very upset. And I said some, not happy things because I was a preteen. But at the end of the school year, somebody asked me, hey, are you going to keep going after all this? Because I complained about it the whole time. And I really did not want to say yes, but I had to because I would miss those people that I'd made connections with. So my advice would just be, in short, even if you're teen, preteen, whatever, really is struggling to plug in and finding a place, whether it's one of our bigger programs like doing something virtual, Instagram Live or whatever, or a drive-in movie, just try to encourage them to stay plugged in some form or fashion. And if those don't quite fit the bill for what you're looking for, what they're looking for, reach out to me. If you just go to our church webpage, I'm listed there with all the staff. My contact info is there.
Or they can just the general email. That's what we're talking about this week. Just info. We'll get it to them.
Yeah, it'll reach me, and I'll find a place for your youth to plug in. So just stay connected.
I like the advice of just, I hate to say make them. I can't go on record saying that. Strongly encourage them to stick with, keep showing up. Because I think that's a good life lesson is if you can't really know whether or not you like something until you just stick with it for a little while. So keep showing up. And let us know what we can do. I know for a fact, James is really good about doing what needs to be done to make your family more comfortable and to make sure that we're speaking to you, to your kid and to your needs. So let us know how we can be a part of that. Carly?
I think the phases of life, just noticing that is important too, because I don't always want to get up and go to church, but when I don't, I do because you pay me to come to church. But
you'd go to church anyway.
I did go to church anyway before then, but I noticed that it was always something I needed, and the discipline of doing that helped me in ways that I couldn't describe. Which isn't helpful for a conversation right now, but
no, I think it is like, and you get good results out of continuing to show up, out of anything, whether it's baseball practice, but especially something that's designed to help you in your life.
I think it's helpful to think about it like baseball practice, because talk about stuff I never wanted to go to. That was like the sports, but it was the continually going there that strengthened me, that gave me discipline, that produced those results. And church isn't about results all the time, but it is about those relationships, and it is about forming those habits, I think.
It's true with any relationship, whether it's a relationship to a group or an individual. The more time, more investment you put into it, the more you get out of it. Mm-hmm. So it's no different with a youth group. It's just that generally you're a parent advising a teenager that really, really, doesn't want to be a part of whatever it is.
And I think too, I can't speak from parental experience, but having worked with parents and worked with youth, there's this fear that, if I make my kid do this, they're never going to want to do this. But what they find is that the parents who model that themselves, I don't remember skipping church but one time in my life, and that was because my dad was out of town, and it was the weirdest Sunday ever.
Is Barry watching right now?
Yeah, Barry.
Is he surprised I know his name?
But it was because that was modeled for me. That's what I did, and so I think if a parent's worried about that, think about how can I model that for my child. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're actually a parent, so you might have different advice, but that would be my advice.
No, I think continue to show up, and it's a little bit hard right now. My child's 3, by the way, and 3 is hard enough. So I've real respect for those of you dealing with humans large enough and capable enough to my daughter can't even open the door to our home. She can't escape, much less go somewhere on her own. So I have real feelings for what you're going through. Still making a point to at least watch church, so she still sees the people. She still sees Josh and knows who Josh is, and that's important. Before the pandemic, and hopefully soon again, I would just get up, and I have to be here super early. I would just bring her with me because I wanted this to be a fun place and wanted her to be a part of what I do. And she would come to all the meetings, and thankfully, people would be very helpful and understanding, but just doing my best to make my church routine just a part of her life. This is just a thing we do because that's how it was presented to me. I mean, I could say I was made to go to church, but honestly, it was just what we did from an early age, and that helped propel me into life. And so just show up. Showing up makes a difference, and encourage your kids to do the same. And I showed up at baseball practice too. And now even if I just throw a water balloon, I'm sore. That's what showing up to baseball
that's
practice
what muscle memory is, right?
did for me as an adult. It just wore out my arm. That's what I acquired. But I think but going and showing up can make a big difference.
Yeah.
How about this question?
Okay.
All right. Let's say someone is watching at home, and this is for the person who doesn't have a youth, but either likes what we're doing here at our church, likes what we're doing to try to make the world a better place, or has raised teenagers and therefore has deep sympathy for your professional situation, and they want to contribute. What can they do?
Yeah, well, there's a couple ways of doing it. If you're local and plugged in, and we go through all the volunteer processes, I always need volunteers, especially for in-person stuff as we get into service opportunities this fall. But if you are not local or are unable to be there in person, donations always help. Just for example,
Money.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Probably not school supplies for us. We're not using that stuff right now. But right before we had this conversation, I was at Best Buy looking at stuff for our drive-in movie. I mean, all that costs money. We had we need projectors and audio and all that stuff.
And so if you want to volunteer, if you live close by, we do exactly what you would hope we would do, which is we do background checks. We do some training on how we are extremely safe with all of our kids or anyone who is vulnerable. And we would ask for you to go through that as you would expect to. And also, you can make out the check to their youth program at First Grapevine. But seriously, we need all the support that we can get, and we appreciate all of your help, your time, your money, and another way I would throw in there is just pray for us. I think it's beneficial, again, especially if you're that person who doesn't have a youth in our program, to get to see James. This is the very excellent person we found to teach the stories of Jesus to our kids and to be with them during a very trying time. Pray for James and our youth and all of us as we just do our best to help these young people through their lives.
Yeah, and it's just been amazing, through this whole process. All of us have our own personal emotions and feelings that we've had, experiencing through this.
No, I do not.
But and I don't have kids or anything, of my own. So I don't have that dynamic to deal with on a regular basis. But just seeing the youth kind of respond to all of this, they experience a lot of the same stuff we do and whatever. But they've been so resilient through all of our changing of programs, through their spring break that lasted from March 9th through September 8th.
Well, you're right. I love how resilient they've been. I won't say his name, but initials are LV, who started doing the cooking classes for his youth friends. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah, and 2 or 3 weeks ago on our Wednesday night small groups, one of the high schoolers had a great idea, and she had us play Uno. There's a website called Uno Freak, and it's just virtual Uno. But all of the youth gathered around and played Uno from their own computers while we were doing our video calls. So,
I like that.
They're way more creative than we are.
Uno Freak. Okay.
And there's leaderboards. So if you're really into Uno, you can be competitive.
Who's not really into Uno? Like, we're gonna check this out. I feel like that's some really good stuff to throw into our midweek. That's some real conversation for you right there. Uno Freak, check it out and let us know.
We're not sponsored by them.
No, we're not. We're not. But if you would like to sponsor us, we are. Yeah, we're very open to that. Well, thanks, James. Thanks so much. And I got to say, it's really great to see you in person and not wearing a mask, like close enough that, I can see you. It's you. You're not a masked man here in the building. And you're not on a little Zoom square. So that's great. We can't take that for granted these days. So, Carly, do you have any last comments about what we've been talking about and what Allen and Lorie talked about?
Well, I think just with James's comment about supporting the youth, you think about last week we showed a baptism that you performed for
Willis's.
The Willis's. Yeah, I love what is the baby's name?
Oh.
It's a beautiful, can you say that or no?
No, I'd rather, can I? Did we say it last
week? No, the Willis's baby. Beautiful name. We won't say it.
Rose.
Okay, Grant whispered it. But part of what the congregation says or the congregation agrees to is that we'll raise these kids, that we'll raise this child up and teach them the ways of Jesus until they can make that decision on their own. And so supporting the youth program is just an extension of those vows that you made, 13 years ago on behalf of all these kids. And so I really think that's a neat way to look at it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's just a really easy way to be a part of something good in the world. Because a lot of times right now, we're sitting there on the couch thinking that we're powerless to have any impact, but you're really not. You're really not. Your prayers really do go a long way. Your contribution, your time with those kids, it always matters, but especially right now. So, but thanks again, James and Carly. And special thanks to Allen and Lorie, who were on the earlier segment. And special thanks to you. We look forward to talking with you more about ways that we can work together to try to help these kids, help adults, and just do our best to answer that call from Jesus to come and see. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
For current information about the effects of COVID-19 precautions at First Grapevine Church, visit firstgrapevine.org/COVID-19 updates.